We'll call the roll. Okay, is everybody, oh, you let everybody in? Good. Bree, would you be able to call the roll and, of the trustees, please? Yes.
Tom, it's a little hard to hear the names.
Sorry, Senator, we're giving the mic to Bree right now.
Okay.
Aaron Dalton,
Yes, I'm here.
Secretary Davis Jones, Commissioner Jean DiGirolamo,
Present.
Representative Jim Struzzi,
Here.
Steve Jasper,
Jasper's here.
Shay Madden, Commissioner Robert Postal, Senator Greg Rothman,
Here.
Representative Mark Rossi, Senator Christine Tartaglione,
Here.
Tamar Alexander.
Thank you. As a preliminary matter, I would like to say that this is a meeting that has been duly advertised as a public meeting in accordance with the Sunshine Act and is therefore open to members of the public as observers. Actual participation in the meeting is limited to members of the trust and to those trustees, to those people that the trustees have invited in advance to take part. I would also say there was an executive session prior to this public meeting. It was to hear a report from council regarding several resolutions that are going to be discussed during this meeting. And I wanted to have council have the opportunity to present that and to answer any questions that any trustee might want to raise. With that, I'd like to get started with the meeting first by welcoming Jamar Alexander, who is an appointee of the city of Philadelphia. Jamar is the assistant to the mayor, and I would say is replacing Jean Wright, who has served for about a year and a half or more on the committee, has made excellent contributions, and has moved out of the state to take a job in Philadelphia or in New York City, which has necessitated naming a new member. Jamar has already gotten his feet wet. He attended a meeting of one of the work groups last week, and he and I have had several discussions about the functioning of the trust. I would also like to recognize and welcome Jim Struzzi. Jim is a representative of Republican representative named by the Republican caucus to replace Jim Gregory. Jim is from Indiana County. He and I have had a conversation earlier this week just to give them a general idea of what we have been doing with the trust, and we welcome him as a new member, just as we appreciate all the contributions that Jim Gregory made in his year and a half or so on the trust. So welcome, Jim. Welcome, Tamar, and thank you for agreeing to be part of us. With that,
Thank you.
to ask for approval of the minutes of the May 2nd, 2024 meeting. Before discussion, I would like to note that this has been reviewed by Senator Rothman. Senator Rothman is attending the meeting, as you heard, virtually, but thought that it might be less disruptive if I present what his comments were, and Senator Rothman wanted on the minutes to correct. It currently says Senator Rothman abstained from the vote for Allegheny County Syringe Services Program, which was program number 11. Otherwise, he voted yay. That should be corrected to Senator Rothman voted no on the Allegheny County Syringe Services Program. Otherwise, he voted yay. Is there any other discussion of the minutes or corrections? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment made by Senator Rothman? Second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. With that, I'd like to move on to the Wave 2 settlements and get a report from the Pennsylvania Attorney General. As we have done at prior meetings, the Attorney General's office, who has been actively involved with obviously negotiated all of the Wave 1 settlements, which we are sitting here and implementing, but they have been working diligently on pursuing other settlements to provide even more dollars to Pennsylvania in order to fight this epidemic. And with that, Neil Mara, I believe you're on the phone and you will be presenting the report from the Attorney General's office.
Good morning, everyone. This is Tyler Ritchie. I'd be presenting the report on behalf of the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office.
Sorry, Tyler.
Yeah. One quick update for us regarding Wave 2 is that we have sent out the Wave 2 estimated allocations to all of the political subdivisions, showing what they can be projected to receive under these new settlements. We are working to finalize these settlement agreements and making sure all the paperwork is properly in order, with the goal of the distribution for Wave 2 happening alongside the Wave 1 distributions in December of 2024. I will note again that these estimated allocations are just that. They are estimates. They are subject to change if something happens at the national level or if there is some kind of incentive that we are unable to fully qualify for. But we are working as hard as possible to make sure that Pennsylvania receives the maximum amount of money under these settlement agreements as we are entitled to. If there are any questions about the Wave 2 settlements, please feel free to ask them. Otherwise, we will continue to work forward and provide any updates to the trust as we learn of them.
Anybody have any questions? Tyler, I know it's impossible to predict, but do you have any idea as to when we can't make any payments even after the settlements are finalized until such time as the Commonwealth Court has approved it? Do you have any idea of the timeline for when the Commonwealth Court may approve these settlements?
So the Commonwealth Court has approved the settlements. We are working to make sure that everything is in order to receive the money from the national administrators. We are trying to make sure that all the correct documents have been provided. We're waiting for a response from the national administrators on what other steps need to be taken. And there is, but otherwise though, the Commonwealth Court has approved them in terms of what happened in Wave 1, where they signed on to the consent decrees. It's just now a process of making sure that that is all properly documented for the national administrators.
Okay, and with their approval of it, as you say they have, what waits us being able to distribute the money from the Commonwealth Court?
So the current impediment is the trust does not have the money. That money is still sitting in escrow with the national administrators. But once it is received, the trust will be able to move as quickly as possible to make sure that distribution goes out in December. That's what we're trying to accomplish by sharing the Wave 2 estimated allocations to show what counties and political subdivisions can expect to receive in December once the Pennsylvania Trust does receive those Wave 2 settlement figures.
Jason, Wolfgang, and I agree with what you said. I just want to put a little bit of a finer point on it. There are some funds that have come in the interim that are sitting at Wilmington Trust that will be in the queue for distribution in December. So it's not totally dependent on receipt of all Wave 2 settlement payments to Pennsylvania. And the other point I wanted to make is that the trust has an obligation under the trust order to issue a notice by September 1 to all counties and litigating subdivisions regarding the funds that are anticipated to be distributed in the subsequent December. And we and the Office of Attorney General and Mar Dussel and CCAP are working together to make sure that we're capturing all available funds, and they will all be included in that September 1 notice so that counties and litigating subdivisions will have a pretty good estimate of what they're going to get in December. We can't really control the timing of the release of national settlement funds to Pennsylvania, but we fully intend to distribute what's received in Pennsylvania on the schedule anticipated by the trust order.
Okay, any questions for Tyler or any further questions about the Wave 2 settlements?
My question is, we discussed the payment and the distribution timeline. I know Pennsylvania has the 18-month timeline. Does Wave 2 consider what we had requested, which was the extended timeline for Wave 2 payment? If it's included in there, because we were looking at 40 or 48 month to be able to expend it, because I understand it was a large amount of money coming in under Wave 2 at one time. Thank you.
So sorry. The current proposal, as we understood it from the trust, was for there to be a 40-month extension for the Walmart settlement figures, because Walmart's kind of a unique deal compared to the others. But that extension was not built into all of the other Wave 2 settlements. Those would follow the same schedule as the Wave 1 settlements for distributors and J&J, the same timeline for expenditures. But Walmart's kind of unique structure in that the bulk of the money is all paid in year one, did kind of necessitate that broader extension for the timeline of using the funds.
And it was at the request of many counties that with such a large amount of money coming in from Walmart, and it was going to be a one-shot deal, that rather than spend it in a 15-month or an 18-month period of time, that the counties would have over 2 years to be able to over 3 years to spend that money instead. So that was really coming at a request of the trust and many of the counties in working with the Attorney General's office. So thank you. Any other questions of Tyler? Okay, let's move on to a report from Penn State, which is going to present a joint report on behalf of Penn State, Temple, and Pitt regarding the reporting that we intend to send out on September the 15th to get a further update from the counties and perhaps political subdivisions on how they have spent the money. So Amy, are you going to be giving that?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Young from Penn State. I work with the project lead, Dr. Scanlon. He couldn't make the meeting today, but he wanted me to provide the following updates on the next reporting tool on his behalf. So our team has been actively working on designing the tool for the second round of reporting, which would cover the reporting period of January 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2024. Even though we received positive feedback from the first reporting tool, our team has made significant enhancements to improve user experiences. Examples of that include pre-populating the tool to include previously inputted and approved current programs, and an easier method of adding new programs, and some language modifications to some questions, including a new question on population served. We envision a pilot session in July with links and accompanying training webinars to go out in August, and with the expectation of the September 15th due date. Additionally, our team is continuing to work on data analysis for public transparency and for the website. So we're making good progress, and we expect to have more information in the coming few weeks. Thanks.
I would say we have been working very closely with Penn State. As many of you are aware, there were glitches in the reporting that we had come in on March 15th. And as we reviewed those reports, we saw a number of things that could be addressed differently, and those changes are being made. In addition, we want to make sure it's as clear as possible what is being reported. So we have asked Penn State, Pitt, and Temple to be making those modifications, just as they did in the case of the March 15th reports, the initial March 15th reports. We would like to have a rollout, first of all, to some of the counties that agreed to be the guinea pigs before, and provide input, but then to allow all the other counties and people that have to report the opportunity to have input, so that we could make it the administrative burden as small as possible, while still giving us and the public all of the information that it needs for all of us to make informed decisions. Penn State, Pitt, and Temple have been invaluable in what they have done, but we are going to be tweaking this, and I wouldn't be surprised if we tweak the reporting every reporting period for the next 10 years. As you know, much of the money has another 16 years to run, and there will be definitely changes. We will learn something from every reporting period. Gene, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Amy, first I want to say thank Amy and thank you for your good work that you're doing there at Penn State and also Temple and Pitt. You mentioned in there that you're going to come up with something to, I guess, identify the population served.
Yes.
Can you just, if you're able to, give us a brief description of what you mean by population served? And how are you going to come up with data? How are you going to be able to collect that data on what population has been served? Or I guess you mean population that have been helped?
Yeah, so essentially we're thinking of adding a question into the reporting tool to allow whoever's filling in the form to describe if they have a particular population in mind that they wish to serve with the remediation program that they're inputting. And we're in discussions with with the other professors to kind of figure out what to include. It's essentially going to be like a checkbox kind of question for now, but we're still figuring out the details.
So I'm kind of assuming, I mean, are you, but by doing this, are you going to be able to come up with any kind of outcomes on the population served, especially when it comes to those who have been in treatment and how successful that's been with some of the money that's been used for treatment, and whether it's traditional treatment or MAT? Is that going to be part of what we might be able to find out with this?
Well, the reporting tool is more so reporting on the program expenditure. So we might not have the outcomes data unless the people that are creating and running the program would be collecting them. But we do wish to have that in mind. But at this level, I think the most that we can do right now is kind of see how funds are being spent and if they're targeting different kinds of populations, so we can also see some trends over time as well.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to Lisa and the Mardusel updates, both on the tax filings and also on the trust financials. Lisa?
Good morning, everyone. I want to update you on the tax returns. The last time that I made a presentation to you, we were in the process of filing those returns. If you recall, there was no tax due. The Commonwealth return is called an RCT 101. We filed 2022 and 2023. As we discussed last time, there might have been a penalty for $500 for that 2022 return. The Commonwealth has given us a one-time forgiveness waiver for that late penalty, so there's no late penalty on the Commonwealth return. The federal return is an 1120 SF, and it was filed for 2022 and 2023. There has been no correspondence from the federal government, no penalty charged, but they could be behind on processing those returns. And if there's an update later, I will bring it to you. Does anybody have questions about the tax returns? I'm going to move to the financial statements if you don't. I don't see any hands. So a financial statement was prepared for the 5 months ended May of 2024. It's cash basis. So that means all the receipts and expenses that hit the bank account for the first 5 months of the year. For purposes of income, there are 2 types of income. There was interest income, and there was a payment to the trust from PA distributors. And the total amount of income is $21,604,655. There were no distributions to participants in terms of expenses for this first 5 months. That will come later in the year. So the expenses for this 5-month period are administrative, and the total expenses are $468,891. That means there is net income for this first 5 months of $21,135,764. The other information I have for you are the bank balances. So those would be cumulative, not just the current net income. Wilmington Trust has $31,525,302, and M&T, where the administrative expenses are paid from, has $357,843. Does anybody have questions about the financial statements? I don't see any.
And these were, by the way, all distributed to the trustees prior to this meeting in their packet of information for the meeting. I would like to say that Senator Rothman does have something he wants me to raise, and I will. And that was with regard to the income statement for year ended December 31, 2023. He raised the question, which I distributed to the trust. There was a total of, for that period of time, $264,500 that was spent on general legal advice. And it for the period 5 months of ended May 31. The legal advice was about slightly over $200,000. And the question that Senator Rothman wanted me to raise was just his concern regarding the legal fees that totaled more than $264 in 2023 and the several $100,000 in the first 5 months of 2024. And the question being, did I anticipate that we are going to continue to spend at this rate? The answer is, I do anticipate we're going to continue to spend at that rate. And wanted to point out by way of explanation, there has been a lot of legal work done in connection with the trust. There is the reports that we file, but also with regard to the last year's legal expenses, about 117,000 of the 264 was spent on the Right to Know Act request that we had received from one of the news publications in Pennsylvania. We felt it was beyond the scope of the Right to Know Act. I am happy to say the Right to Know Act office agreed with us on that and did in fact say that the publication was not entitled under the Right to Know Act to get the vast scope of documents, hundreds of pages of requests that they were being asked to, they were asking the trust to provide. I would anticipate that there will be Right to Know Act requests in the future because even though that decision was not appealed, as the news publication had the absolute right to do so, they opted not to, but there have been a lot of additional documents since that time, and they haven't shown any inclination to back off their efforts to try to get documents. In addition to that, though, there is a lot of interpretation of the Commonwealth Court Order, which established the trust. There is a lot of questions that arise under the Sunshine Act. Senator Rothman, who raised the question, questioned whether or not the work group meetings were properly exempt from the Sunshine Act. We believe that they are, but it did require a legal opinion. It isn't just Tom Van Kirk making things up off the top of his head. We do have received legal advice concerning that. There is also legal advice concerning the trust order, the Commonwealth Court Order on a continual basis. I will say with regard to legal fees, we receive a 35% discount off the normal rates of the lawyers, as I described when we initially retained the attorneys in 2023. Also, the bills reflect that there are a lot of things that are time that was spent, but that are not billed, and that is all noted on the actual invoices, which come to me for approval before I send it to the trust. Myself, I could not function in this role. I do not believe the trust can properly function if it were not receiving legal advice on a regular basis. And we do want to make sure we're in full compliance with the laws of the Commonwealth. Is it a lot of money? Sure. But it is not out of the ordinary by way of legal expenses. I will also say that if you take the cumulative expenses that have been incurred by the trust, which include the legal fees, the CCAP for their administrative expenses, the Wilmington Trust fees for administering the accounts and getting the checks out on our behalf as they have on a very, very timely basis. The insurance that we approved at one of the last meetings in the amount of $76,000, the accounting fees that we have, and obviously, as I said, the CCAP fees. Additionally, we are paying about $180,000 per year for the services of Penn State, et cetera. So we do have administrative expenses. It is to be assumed we have received a total of about $238 million, all of which we are in the process of either have distributed or in the process of distributing. So if you take $238 million that we have received and administered and had the accounting for, obviously we are going to have administrative expenses to cover that. Our total administrative expenses for the trust from the time it was created through now, which is almost 2 years at this point, the total administrative expenses are less than $1 million, $997,000. We have received by way of income, part of which was discussed by Lisa, we have received by way of income, more interest income, more than $2.9 million. So we have, in fact, recovered more in interest by about $2 million than we have spent in administrative fees. I defy anybody to go to any other state and find any other state that has spent less money on administrative expenses in administering the work that they have done. And I know what some of them have been incurring by way of just various newspaper articles. I read when I'm on vacation, Virginia spent about 9% of the money it received. We're entitled by the Commonwealth Court to spend up to 1% of the money that we receive from the settlements themselves, the corpus, if you will. We're entitled to spend at least 1% in administrative fees. That in and of itself would be $2.3 million. We haven't spent a cent of corpus, not a cent. We have paid for everything out of the interest income that we have received, and therefore we're well within the bounds of anything that needs to be spent. Senator Rothman, to the extent that you raise questions about the legal fees, I've asked the attorneys, and you're located near Harrisburg. They're in Harrisburg. They will be happy to sit down with you and review every invoice that they submitted, go over in detail exactly what was done, show you what the discounts were off of that, also show you the amount of money that they did not bill us for projects where they felt there might have been overlap in services that in other services that they had provided. So I am quite comfortable with the administrative fees, but also happy to answer any questions anybody has. Thank you. Shay didn't have the microphone just for those small comments, but she said she appreciates the information and she's very comfortable with it. I might have added a very there. Sorry if I did. Gene, you have a question?
Hey, yeah, Tom, I mean, you know, I for one would like to see every dollar possible. And I certainly understand probably where Senator Rothman is coming right now too, is every dollar possible be put back into the counties to provide services and treatment, whatever, for this terrible epidemic and disease that we're experiencing around the county. Although listening to you, when we spent less than $1 million, almost, we're almost at the 2-year mark in legal and administrative fees, $2.9 million, I believe you said, and interest that's come into the trust. I as well think that's reasonable. And, you know, and again, I'd like to see every dollar put back into these counties to help out. But in the environment that we're in right now, especially with right to know requests. I mean, I know from Bucks County standpoint, we're getting inundated with right to know requests, and the legal fees are very high, but I do believe that's reasonable. Mr. Chairman, the amount of money that we spent the last 2 years on these fees. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Any other comments? I would add as one aside, part of the reason why the administrative fees are, in my view, as small as they are, is because of the good offices, because of all the trustees, past and present, that are on this call. Obviously, you're serving on a pro bono basis. No trust member, including myself, has received any money from the trust in payment for the services rendered, despite the more than 10 public meetings, the hours of working group meetings in analyzing everything, the hours that have been spent on your own, talking to people from Penn State, trying to provide input to make sure that the process is as smooth as possible. The attending of many CCAP meetings where we have reported to CCAP, to the individual counties comprising CCAP. And I am just very comfortable with the amount of money that that has been spent, but in large part, it is because of the good offices of all the trustees and the giving of their time in order to get as much money as possible, Gene, into the hands of the citizens of the Commonwealth in order to be able to combat this disease. Okay, hearing no other questions, I'd like to move on to what is the main purpose of today's meeting, which is to go over the I'm sorry, I did want to go over those. Before moving into the main thrust of the meeting, which is to review the expenses, I do have two resolutions that I would like to present. And one deals with the request for extension of time. These resolutions were provided prior to the meeting, and there has been one request for a modification to the resolution, and with request for extension, there is no change. It's going to be with the other resolution that I'm going to be presenting. The reason I would like a resolution for the request for extensions is we just automatically granted, in the case of the first payments that went out, an automatic extension of the 18-month period within which the counties had the requirement to spend this money. And we felt that with the whole thing being new, with the counties getting this without them having the benefit of prior experience in what information was going to be requested, what monies could be spent, the volume of requests that they were going to be getting for money, that they may not be able to spend it within the 18-month period. And we, in fact, granted, I believe, 57 counties requested extensions of time, and we agreed to extend for a 6-month period of time the time frame within which they had to spend the money, and it was without question, as we said we would do. Now that we're finished with that, the initial payouts, and getting into the second wave of payments that went out in 2023, as well as dealing with anything that might still relate to 2022 payments, we felt it necessary to formalize the request somewhat so that we wouldn't be granting them automatically, but also that people would have the opportunity to request an extension if they so choose. It is our intent to try to get the money spent as quickly as possible on things that are authorized by Exhibit E. We think it's important to get this money out into the into the public domain, even though many states have yet to spend a cent of the money that they have received. We, despite having sent our money out in 2021, we still have only spent 70 or so $million of the more than $200 million that we have now sent out. So there is still a need to get the money spent as quickly as possible on proper uses. So we will grant extensions, but I did want to establish a procedure for doing it. So the resolution that was circulated prior to the meeting, which I would like to have presented, is resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania Opioid Misuse and Addiction Abatement Trust hereby authorizes recipients of the trust funds to request an extension of 6 months from any applicable deadline for the expenditure of trust funds. An extension request must be submitted in writing to the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, the trust administrator. CCAP, in conjunction with Trust Council, will design a form that must be utilized to submit an extension request. An extension request not made using the designated form developed by CCAP will not be entertained by the board, but will be summarily rejected by CCAP with an explanation, including instructions on how to access the appropriate form. The board will review each extension request and take action on such request at a public meeting. An extension request must be received by the trust prior to the applicable deadline for which an extension is sought, must demonstrate good faith efforts to date to spend funds received from the trust in a timely manner, and will be granted for good cause shown as determined in the sole discretion of the board. So that is the resolution that was circulated. Could I have a motion to adopt that resolution?
Have a motion.
Second by Kevin.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Gene. Any discussion of the motion?
Just one quick, you can repeat it. This will be posted on our site.
This will be posted on our website, yes. Yes, and it will be done short of, we normally wouldn't be filing the minutes, which would contain this, but we will file this earlier with the permission of the board so that we can make sure all the counties are notified of the procedure. We will also direct CCAP to get out and develop the form as quickly as possible, and also get that out to the counties as quickly as possible. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. The second motion, as I got to thinking of the number of additional requests that we've had, of everything we received, how the money was spent, the number that at the last meeting where we declined and said that the manner in which requests or the money was spent was not appropriate, which were not many at the last meeting. The number that are going to be considered at this meeting, the number that are still going to be under consideration even after this meeting, we recognize that some of the counties are going to feel aggrieved. They're going to feel as if the manner in which they spent the money was appropriate, regardless of what the trust as a whole found. We did feel it appropriate, although any time that any county feels aggrieved by a decision of the trust, that they can just pick up the phone and ask for a further explanation. Or they can, as provided in the Commonwealth Court order, appeal to the Commonwealth Court. We did not feel, I don't feel, it's appropriate to not provide for a dispute resolution procedure, which will allow counties, short of going to Commonwealth Court, incurring the legal fees that will be necessary to do so, the time that it will take for the Commonwealth Court to decide the case. We did think it would be appropriate to have a dispute resolution procedure so that counties can get an answer from us more quickly. So I did ask counsel in conjunction with CCAP to draft a resolution and a procedure, discussed it at the meeting this morning of the executive session, did circulate the procedure earlier, and it was discussed at the executive meeting, and would like to propose a dispute resolution group so that we can try to have the counties have the opportunity to be heard as to why the way that they spent the money was appropriate, notwithstanding a determination that this board may have made. So I'm proposing the following resolution, which does embody a suggestion that was made at the executive committee this morning, so that we will see that I've made a change to what was proposed, where the committee would have certain things they could have done in their sole discretion, which was to constitute a reasonable period of time and to give the parties a right to be heard. And rather, we are changing that so that parties have an absolute right to be heard and have their dispute determined, and that also the committee will have the discretion to continue to say what a reasonable period of time is for them to file for a dispute resolution. It is the intent that if this resolution is adopted, that it will establish a dispute resolution committee, which will consist of 7 trust members, so that it will be a quorum. It will be in fact, a committee. It is not a working group. It is a designated committee and will be subject to the Sunshine Act, so that it will be heard. Any dispute that somebody and if somebody wants to file for further hearing, it will be in a public meeting. And it's my further intent that at that public meeting, the aggrieved party, the one filing the dispute, will in fact appear in person or by Zoom. They will have not only the opportunity, but it will be a requirement that they will make their presentation to this committee. It would be my further intent that the committee would be authorized by the trust as a whole, once they have heard the dispute, for that committee to make the decision as to what the resolution of that dispute will be. The resolution that I propose with the amendment that I suggested that was made at the executive session is resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Opioid Trust hereby authorizes the chair of the board to establish a dispute resolution committee comprised of 7 members of the Board of Trustees to review any complaint filed by the beneficiary of the trust pursuant to Section 8G of the trust order. The dispute resolution committee so established is hereby authorized to respond on behalf of the Board of Trustees to any such complaints. Any complaint submitted to the Board of Trustees must be submitted in writing to the County Commissioners Association, the trust administrator. The Dispute Resolution Committee, in conjunction with CCAP and counsel for the trust, will develop a form by which all complaints must be submitted. Any complaint must be made in writing, utilizing the designated form, and must be filed with CCAP within a reasonable period of time from when the beneficiary knows or has reason to know of the basis of its complaint. The Dispute Resolution Committee will have the discretion to determine what constitutes a reasonable period of time under the circumstances. As an aside, I believe 30 days will be sufficient, but we do recognize that it might be necessary to have it. So I wanted the committee to have the ability to extend that if they want. Further on the resolution, the Dispute Resolution Committee will review complaints made to the board at a public meeting of the Dispute Resolution Committee and shall respond in writing to the beneficiary within 60 days of the complaint. Any beneficiary filing a complaint shall have the opportunity to appear before the Dispute Resolution Committee to present evidence and arguments in support thereof, which shall also occur at a public meeting of the Dispute Resolution Committee. Once again, as an aside, my belief is that people should, in fact, make that, should have to appear in person, and the committee as a rule should require that the committee appear. Dispute Resolution Committee's response to any beneficiary's complaint shall be deemed the final response by the Board of Trustees pursuant to Section 8G of the trust order. That is the end of the resolution. I know that there may be suggested amendments to that, but for purposes of starting the discussion, may I have a motion to approve that resolution? So moved by Tamar. Yeah, could I have a motion first? Okay, second? Okay. And I see that Senator Rothman, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm fine with the resolution with the changes you've proposed, so I would vote a yes.
Okay, thank you. Other discussions?
To be clear, this is a public meeting. Two questions. One is, will the disputes be made public on our websites? And I want to make sure this does not preclude them from taking it to the court after the decision of this committee.
The answer is yes, it will be public on the website. And the second thing is that this does not cut off any other appeal rights, and they have whatever other rights they may have in order to appeal the decision. In other words, Commonwealth Court will have an opportunity to weigh in. There's no way I'm going to cut off the opportunity of the Commonwealth Court to do that. No.
Thank
you. You're welcome. Yes.
Yeah, I have a recommendation to modify the resolution, and it's the final sentence. And my recommendation is that we consider making the dispute resolution committees respond to any beneficiaries that will be approved by the full council before final response is given.
By the full board.
By the full board. That's my recommendation.
Okay, so we have I'll take that as a motion to amend the resolution to require that that the Dispute Resolutions Committee answer will not be final, and rather it will be a recommendation to the board, with the board having the full board having the authority to vote on the recommendation of the Dispute Resolution Committee. Is that correct? Okay, there's been a second to that motion by Tamara Alexander. Any other questions? Any discussion of that amendment? And council has would like to make a comment on that.
Just a point of clarification. The idea behind this resolution was to have a smaller group which could meet more quickly and maybe slightly more nimbly than convening an entire board meeting. All of this has to be done within 60 days pursuant to the Commonwealth Court order. So just the point is by doing that, if the committee then brings it to the full board, which is the prerogative of this body to decide whether to do it that way or not. And then the full board is empowered to actually make the final response to the complaint, then all of that has to happen within 60 days. I just want everybody to know that's what we're contemplating.
Tom, this is Steve Jasper. I had my hand up. I appreciate the previous speaker's comments. I think having 7 members of that committee is a majority of the board. And I agree with the last speaker that swiftness so that we can get responses to counties is very important. With that, I lower my hand.
The approvals of decisions made by a working group or a committee. So we could utilize a similar process, and it is an expedited process that would not extend to 60 days.
And my only response to that, Madam Secretary, is that that is true, but because the Dispute Resolutions Committee's deliberations are public, in order for the full board to meet on it and either adopt or deny that recommendation, it also has to be a public meeting and could not be done in the expedited basis that you mentioned merely by circulating and asking for a vote. It would have to be a public meeting called for. Kevin.
Mr. Chair, while I appreciate the fact that the whole board has the ability to weigh in, I think that they have weighed in initially with a denial. And this is an opportunity for dispute to be overturned. And in the efficiency and expediency of being able to do this, I think it is important that the 7-member board, it may not even include these members, or somebody brought up the fact of a professional may come in and testify on the behalf of the county or whatever that may be. I think that I would like to turn that over to this committee to keep it moving forward.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. Gene.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And again, I appreciate the secretary's comments. I'm also comfortable with the 7-member committee making the final decisions and not being taken in front of the full board. So I agree with Steve Jasper, his comments, and I'm okay with just the 7-member committee making the final decision. Thank you.
Senator Tartaglione.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That 60-day window, when we have the dispute committee make their decision and the individual or group that's getting, if it was declined, not recommended, that's still, if they want to go to Commonwealth Court, that still has to fit within that 6-day period, correct?
No, any appeal to the Commonwealth Court would be outside the 60-day period.
Okay. I'm for the 7-member board.
Okay, other discussion first on the amendment by Secretary Davis-Jones. Hearing no further discussion on that, I'd like to have a vote on the amendment. So the amendment is that the recommendation that the Dispute Resolution Committee would only make a recommendation to the full board, and it would take the full board to make the decision, and ratify or reject the decision of the Dispute Resolution Committee. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. All opposed?
Nay,
No,
Anybody abstaining? I believe it was rejected by a majority. And we will note that, we will note what the vote was. With that, the resolution, as I had originally proposed it, is on the table. Any further discussion on the entire resolution? Hearing none. All in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Secretary Jones, anybody else? Any abstentions? Resolution passes. Okay. Now we'll move on to the main purpose of the meeting. And by the way, thank you all. I think the discussion was excellent. We did have a lot of discussion internally with council about what the proper procedure would be, Secretary. And I just, on just the overall basis, I just couldn't see calling this full committee together in a public meeting that often. Okay, so with that, we are going to now turn to the questions of the reports that were filed with us pursuant to Section 5D11 of the Commonwealth Court Order. Each county was required to submit a report to the Board of Trustees by March 15, showing the actual expenditures of trust funds and the amount of trust funds received but not spent by the close of the previous calendar year. Litigating subdivisions were also encouraged and may in the future be required to submit such reports, but were not required for our purposes. On or about March 15th, all 67 counties and certain litigating subdivisions did submit the reports to the trust, detailing the expenditure and the commitment. And at a public meeting on May 2nd, with most of you attended, the Board of Trustees reviewed and voted on recommendations of the working groups, which had met in April and reviewed the reports submitted by the trust fund recipients. Each program was characterized by the working groups as either recommended for approval, still under consideration, or non-compliant. On May 2nd, the Board of Trustees voted on the programs characterized as either recommended for approval or non-compliant, and programs voted as under consideration were not voted on. Following that meeting, the trust fund recipients, each of the counties, were notified of the characterization of their programs. For those programs still characterized as still under consideration, the trust sought additional information to determine compliance with Exhibit E, and they were asked to submit any additional information by May 22nd. Most complied with that. There were several stragglers, but as of this time, we did get the responses from most of the counties. Following the receipt of the additional information, the working groups met in early June to review each program and to prepare recommendations to the full board. Following today's the board now intends to review those recommendations so the board may fulfill its responsibility under the trust order. We did circulate to the board as of Monday of this week, a compilation of all of the programs that were considered, much as we did compile them for the purposes of the May 2nd meeting. And the board has been informed of what all of the recommendations were, and so that it may now fulfill its responsibilities under the trust order. Following today's public meeting and actions by the board, Each county will receive a follow-up communication from the trust detailing what programs have been approved as compliant with Exhibit E to the settlement agreements, disapproved as non-compliant, as well as requests for additional information regarding those programs still under consideration. We had initially intended that nothing would be sent back for further consideration, that this meeting would constitute the final action. However, in the case of two counties, they had submitted some very broad requests, but that we looked at in May, at the May 2nd meeting. And it developed when they detailed the information under those broad requests, they consisted of a number of different grants that might have been made, so that we were seeing for the first time the details of how some of the counties might have proposed. For example, and this is just one broad example, but Philadelphia, under a request, one request for $7 million had included 5 separate programs without providing what the details of those programs were. When they submitted the details, they did submit the details of all 5, and we took whatever actions are going to be reported with regard to those. But with regard to a lot of the other ones, which we were seeing for the first time, and there may have been as many as 36, 37 separate grants that I'm referring to that we were seeing for the first time, we still don't believe we have enough information for those. Some of them are contained under Philadelphia. I believe the other county was Bucks County that submitted them as mini grants, if you will. So we, in looking at this, the working groups in looking at this, did not think it was fair to just say, no, it is not compliant, or, on the other hand, without enough information, merely say yes to it. So we are going to send those back for being under further consideration. And having done that with respect to these mini grants, I will say we did extend that opportunity for certain other programs where we felt the counties had thought they were supplying the right information, but it was just viewed as being so unclear that although we might be able to make an argument as to how it applied under Exhibit E, the counties did not make their case. Short of filing a dispute resolution, we decided to give them a further chance to do it. And in fact, we have scheduled as our next meeting, a meeting in August, so that we can, on a prompt basis, consider all of those that we're sending back for further consideration. So the board will now review the spreadsheet that has been compiled. And I'd ask each working group leader, as they are reviewing this, much as the same as we did before. Jason, you have something. Much the same as we did before, I would ask, we're going to do this by alphabetical order by counties. It is going to be reported on by the working group, that consider it. The program will be identified by the county as by the working group leader as the county name. The program number is reported in the follow-up county report from that county. The program name, the dollars reported as spent or committed, and the working group's recommendation. Then like to have a full discussion by everybody of what they feel, if they have any concerns about the recommendation, pro or con, to have a full opportunity to ask questions so that the working group can attempt to answer it. Once again, even though we had pared this down to about 136 from the 370 that was initially submitted, they still constituted 3 notebooks, which were 4 or 5 inches thick to get the detailed information. So I would like to ask CCAP to, well, you've already displayed it. You anticipated what I was going to say, Bree. Thank you. So with that, we will start with Adams County, and that was working group number 3. Jay. Yes. I would also like to make the request, for the next meeting, can we have more than one microphone to pass around? Okay, we'll see what we can do. Up the administrative fee that we pay to the Harrisburg University by a couple bucks and see if we can get another mic. Shay.
Okay. First up, Adams County Program Number 1. Remediation program name is LOCA or LOCA in the amount of $73,801. And we recommended non-compliant as we did not receive any additional information.
Okay.
Adams.
Any
Sorry.
discussion of that recommendation for Adams County number 1? Okay.
Adams County Program Number 2, HS Coordination in the amount of $65,000. We recommended to be approved.
Any discussion of that recommendation? Okay. Once again, I'm going to lump 4 or 5 counties together for resolution purposes, but we will vote on this after we get. The one thing I should have added, by the way, and Bree had accumulated some information that you might want, at the public meeting in May, we had approved 208 of the submissions, and there were a total of 361 programs, separate programs that had been submitted. We listed as still under consideration 148, and it's non-compliant 5. And the amount approved was approximately $35 million. As we come down to working group to this meeting, there is a further recommendation, but I did want you to know that we are considering a total of 233 because of the way we broke out those 148 that were still under consideration into the mini grants that I had discussed a little bit earlier. So this is there are going to be a lot of programs that we are going to be discussing, but that doesn't take away from the fact that before this meeting, we had already approved about 60% of the total programs that had been submitted by the counties. Okay, with that, we will move on to Allegheny County. That was working group number 2, Secretary Davis Jones.
Allegheny County, program number 4. The name of the program is Mobile MAT. Funding amount, a little bit over $579,000. The recommendation is to approve. Any discussion?
I would just like to make one note on this. You're going to see as we go through these, a number of recommendations on the mobile units that counties have spent this money on. We wholeheartedly endorse that concept for many of the counties, including Allegheny. Despite the fact it's a large county, there are a lot of rural areas of Allegheny County. People just do not have the ability to be able to come and get the kind of treatments that are available. And we felt it very important, clearly authorized by Exhibit E, and that it's very important to try to get as much of this by way of mobile units that could get the relief out to as many members of the county as possible and minimize transportation expenses. In addition to these mobile units that the secretary just described, there's also in several counties that requested transportation costs so that people could have transportation in order to get to a central site. And I think we also approved all of those. So the whole effort here is to make sure that we try to get, make available all of the known remedies that we can use to help people overcome this addiction out into the field and allow them to do it. Sorry, Secretary.
Allegheny, program number 7. Contingency management pallet, 1.7 million. It's recommended for approval. Allegheny County, program number 8, recovery housing, recommended for approval. Allegheny County, program number 14, public education campaign, 300,000. I'm sorry, I should have said that the amount for the other ones as well. Recommended for approval, but I'll go back up to the recovery housing amount. For the previous one was 181,000. But all 4 of their programs, 4, 7, 8, and 14, are recommended for approval. Any discussion?
Once again, I would like to make one note on the public education campaign, which is Allegheny number 14, which the secretary referred to. You might recall at the time of the last meeting, we sent a number of programs back where the county had listed that it was for education purposes. And we sent most of them back to the counties, not because it isn't authorized by Exhibit E, clearly education is, but particularly when there are large amounts of money available, we wanted to make sure that this, in fact, the money was being spent for education purposes and not just to pad the pockets of a PR firm or whatever. I'm happy to say that the counties responded very well to this, and almost across the board, it was very legitimate expenses, very detailed information concerning the kind of public awareness campaigns and public education campaigns that the counties had underway. Being a resident of Allegheny County, I can tell you, I get a lot of public information about programs that are available, which did not appear prior to the time that this campaign was undertaken. So you'll see a number of these, and the working groups fully looked at this and justified the fact that the bulk of this money is being spent, in fact, on educating the public, as it should be. Any questions on anything else under Allegheny County? Okay, Beaver County, once again, it's working group number 3, Shay.
Beaver County, program number 1, Gateway Rehab Harm Reduction Expansion in the amount of $552,000 was recommended for approval. Beaver County, program number 3, ABC Associates Infrastructure Expansion in the amount of $474,976 was recommended for approval. Beaver County, program number 4, ABC Associates Infrastructure and Training Expansion in the amount of $32,355 was again recommended for approval.
Thank you. Any questions concerning Beaver County? I would also like to note that Gateway Rehab will appear on several of these. They're a large organization located in Western Pennsylvania, and several different counties had projects that Gateway Rehab. I think most of them, we did require the further information, and we're satisfied that the monies going to Gateway are being used for Exhibit E purposes and are being well utilized by the counties. Any questions about Beaver? Hearing none. Bedford County, group number 2. No recommendations? They did not report anything, so, and they do have extensions, as Jason just pointed out to me. Berks County, this was once again working group number 3, Shay, and you won't see many under Berks County, I don't believe, because we approved most of Berks County the last time and threw out accolades to them for how well they responded.
Berks County, program number 1, Berks County Jail Vivitrol Program in the amount of $37,032. We recommended approval. Berks County program number 24, Medical Fellowship Program in the amount of $20,000. We also recommended approval.
Okay, any questions concerning Berks County, excuse me? Hearing none, we'll move on to Blair County, and once again, Shay.
Blair County program number 1, SAP Evidence-Based Curriculum in the amount of $10,715. We recommended approval. Blair County program number 2, Drug Court in the amount of $322,733. We recommended as non-compliant as we did not have enough detail.
Any questions? I would add, in addition, we did take particular notice when we didn't get much detail. And if it appeared it was going in the case of Blair County without much further explanation, the explanation was that this was going for a probation officer. In and of itself, probation officer strikes us as a police-related use of the money. And in addition to that, the basic explanation was it was to hire a probation officer and the amount of $322,000 for one probation officer. It seemed to us that they were not giving us the kind of information that we would need in order to do that. So we did recommend it as non-compliant, or the working group is non-compliant. Any other questions? Any questions concerning Blair? Next will be Bucks County, and you're on a roll, Shay.
I know, it's like
You.
Groundhog Day. Bucks County program number 1, treatment expansion in the amount of $300,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County program number 2, expanding recovery housing in the amount of $100,000 was recommended for approval. The next one's the mini grants. Okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That's why there's so many programs under Bucks.
Yeah, this is the one I had mentioned. Bucks County,
That
along with
makes sense.
Philadelphia, was one that had a number of mini grants that occurred, and that is what Shay is now going to review. We renumbered what they had originally submitted as Bucks County number 6, which was just one large accumulation of mini grants into a number of separate mini grants.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. Okay, Bucks County program number 6-1, ARC Caring for the Caregiver in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County number 6-2, be part of the conversation in the amount of $16,400 was also recommended for approval. Bucks County program number 6-3, Conquering Life Prison Recovery Ministries in the amount of $15,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County program number 6-4, David's New Day in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County program number 6-5, Doylestown Health in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County program number 6-6, Family Service Association of Bucks County in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County program number 6-7, Gadenzia Inc. in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. I know. Bucks County Program Number 6-8, Ingenious Coaching in the amount of $13,810 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-9, No Longer Bound in the amount of $11,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-10, St. Luke's Penn Foundation in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-11, Sweatshirt of Hope in the amount of $10,275 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-12, Think Recovery Community in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-13, Walk It Out Recovery Services in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-14, Special Equestrians in the amount of $12,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-15, Hidden High and Hammered in the amount of $10,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-16, Care and Treatment Centers in the amount of $16,137 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-17, Neshaminy School District in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-18, Maura Farrell in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 6-19, Bensalem Police Department in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Okay, moving on to Bucks County Program Number 7, Media Campaign in the amount of $150,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 10, Project Evaluation, Fiscal Management, Data Dashboard Reporting, and Admin Costs in the amount of $400,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 13, Drug Court Probation Officer in the amount of $200,000 was recommended as non-compliant. Bucks County Program Number 14, Women and Children's Housing Services in the amount of $200,000 was recommended for approval. Bucks County Program Number 16, Alternative Activities in the amount of $50,000 was recommended for approval. And lastly, Bucks County Program Number 17, 24/7 Crisis Stabilization Unit in the amount of $900,000 was recommended as non-compliant.
Okay. Any questions under Bucks County? Hearing none, I would like to have a resolution dealing with Adams, Allegheny, Beaver, Berks, Blair, and Bucks County. The resolution, first resolution, will be resolved that the Board of Resolutions of Pennsylvania Opioid Trust Abatement, the Opioid Trust, based on recommendations of the working groups that met and reviewed the follow-up reports from the counties, hereby approves the following programs as compliant with the applicable terms as set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2022 order of the Commonwealth Court that created the trust. Adams County Program Number 2, Allegheny County Program Number 4, 7 to 8, and 14, Beaver County Programs Number 1, 3 to 4, Berks County Programs Number 1 and Number 24, Blair County Program Number 1, Bucks County Programs Number 1 and 2, 6-1 through 6-19, number 7, 10, 14, and 16. Can I have a motion to that effect?
This is post only. I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Second,
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed? And the further resolution is to deal with ones that we are disapproving. So it's further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups, hereby disapproves the following programs as non-compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E. Adams County Program Number 1, Blair County Program Number 2, Bucks County Programs Number 13 and 17. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved, Kevin Boozle.
Second? Okay, second by Shay Madden. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay, we will move on to Butler County, and Kevin, I'll save you the time. Kevin is going to abstain from any motions dealing with Butler County.
Butler
So-
County, Butler County Program Number 3, Hope is Dope Community Outreach in the amount of $100,000. We recommended approval. And Butler County Program Number 4, Recover Empower Institute MAT Support Group in the amount of $89,550. We also recommended approval.
Okay, any discussion of Blair County, or of Butler County, excuse me? Okay, moving on to Cambria County. That's working group number 2, Secretary Davis Jones.
Cambria County Program Number Cambria County Program Number 1, Cambria County Rise Project, $1.9 million. It is recommended for approval.
And that was,
It looks like we have two of the same. Oh, sorry, no, this is Cameron. Any discussion?
any discussion of Cambria County? Of Cambria, yes.
Next
Hearing none,
county.
Cameron County, Secretary Davis Jones.
Yep. Program number 1, name of program, Cameron County Detective Initiative. The amount $20,000, and that is still under consideration. We have received that additional information and will follow back up after we've had an opportunity to review. Program, Cameron County Program Number 2. It's the Governmental Agency Assistance Initiative, $45,684. That is still under consideration as well. And then there is Cameron County again, number 3, program number 3. It's the District Magistrate Office Staff Wages, $15,462. That is still under consideration.
Okay. Any discussion of any of the 3 programs under Cameron County? Hearing none, we'll move on to Center County, and that was working group number 3. Shay.
Center County Program Number 1, Contingency Management Transportation Funding in the amount of $60,000 was recommended for approval. Center County Program Number 3, Sober Living Housing Support in the amount of $10,000 was recommended for approval. Center County Program Number 4, Recovery Center Needs in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. Center County Program Number 5, Meeting Maker Program in the amount of $2,500 was also recommended for approval. Center County Program Number 6, Language Interpretation Support in the amount of $2,500 recommended for approval. Center County Program Number 7, Student Assistance Support Services in the amount of $25,000 was recommended for approval. And lastly, Center County Program Number 8, Narcan Media Campaign in the amount of $32,672 was recommended for approval.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to Chester County. Secretary Davis Jones.
Chester County, program number 8, media campaign, $3,000, a little bit over that. And it's recommended for approval. Chester County, program number 9, community recovery resources, $31,000. That is recommended for approval. Chester County, program number 10, warm handoff expansion, $204,000. That is recommended for approval. We also have Chester County Program Number 11, Valley Creek Crisis Stabilization, $35,000. It's recommended for approval. Chester County Program Number 12, Prevent Future Overdoses, Toxicology Testing, $140,000. That is still under consideration. Chester County Program Number 13, expanded testing, $250,000. That is recommended for approval. Chester County Program Number 14, equestrian recovery support, $14,000. That was recommended as non-compliant. And then we have Chester Program Number 20, Prevention Awareness and Alternative Activities. That was in the tune of $5,210. That was recommended for approval. And then we have Chester Program 21, Information Dissemination Stall Stories, $45,000 recommended for approval. And we have Chester Program Number 22, Information Line, a little bit over $1,200, and that is recommended for approval. Chester Program Number 28, Maternal Dependency Program, $50,000. It's recommended for approval. Chester Program 29, 988 Crisis Center, $300,000. It was recommended for approval. Chester Program Number 32, Compass Prevention Information Dissemination, a little bit over $37,000. It's recommended for approval. And we have Chester Program 33, Prevention Evidence-Based Education, $32,622, and it's recommended for approval.
Thank you. I am going to open it up for discussion of Chester before we move on to other counties, but I would like to make 2 comments first, and then open it up for anybody else. First, you'll notice that we did recommend as non-compliant, the working group once again recommended as non-compliant, the equestrian recovery supports, whereas earlier in this meeting, we did approve a equine therapy program. The differences between the 2 programs was the one that we approved and was equine therapy was a fully developed therapy program which utilizes horses and sets forth how the comfort and working with the animals help people in recovery much the same way as people might in working with animals, okay? This one, we disapproved that. That was just too general. The fact that a horse is around to us didn't measure up. This particular program, they detailed in great detail how the horses were used in helping the treatment of people that are afflicted with opioid use disorder, and made a compelling case for how it works. So it's an example of the fact that merely because it deals with equestrian services. It really is, how was the money utilized and what kind of therapies were involved. The other one that I will open up, because I do think that at the last meeting, Senator Rothman had raised a question. So I will open up the Chester County Coroner's Office as being a question, because we have it as still under consideration by this working group. And there are two other coroner services, one in the case of Lehigh County, which that working group is recommending for approval. And we are allowing Lawrence County at our behest, not theirs, to open up the request for coroner services in light of the fact of what we were recommending in this meeting for Lehigh County. So in order to address it at the proper time, I wanted to raise the Chester County and give Senator Rothman a chance to make the recommendation that be moved to recommending approval as opposed to under consideration.
Before we do that, I still had some feedback and just a point of clarity regarding the one that we disallowed. If we have the notes from our last meeting, I thought that the reason for, and of course that was, some weeks ago, so refresh my memory. I thought that the reason why we could not move forward with approving as a work group is because we could not determine who the program would treat. It wasn't specific to whether or not it was for individuals with opioid use disorder or any kind of, sort of programmatic thrust that tied to Exhibit E. So can we please look at the notes to kind of clarify what our true concern was? Because, we know about horse therapy, it can be something that we could approve, but it was more or less about when we tried to get that, we asked the additional questions and they did not provide us with the target population who would be served.
Sure. You are correct in the notes of the, absolutely correct. The recollection is very good. And Jason just refreshed my recollection that in fact, they offered no support for the people that were being treated in this program that you recommended disapproval for. They could not make any tie to OUD.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted that
No,
to be
you
on the
did.
record.
Yep. Morgan, sorry.
Hi, Tom. Thank you. Senator Rothman is here. He's just not able to make use of his microphone at the moment. So I wanted to hop on here on his behalf and just state that the senator is hoping to have Chester County program number 12 changed from still under consideration to recommended for approval to make that in line with the other coroner projects that we will be approving today.
Okay. As I said, all of them are very similar. We disapproved Lawrence the last meeting, and I don't believe that was your working group, Secretary David. But we recommended non-compliant on the basis that it appeared as if it might be being used solely for law enforcement purposes and to ascertain a cause of death drug-related so that somebody could be penalized for it, or that was going to be used in court proceedings. As it turns out, with both Chester and the other one we'll be considering Lehigh County, it was pointed out that the tests really were being used not for law enforcement purposes, not for use in a court setting, but was really to identify exactly what was causing these drug overdoses, which particular drug, what part of the county people may have been from, in order that proper resources could be directed by the counties to first responders, not police, first responders EMS, et cetera, so they would know exactly what drugs they were dealing with, what was being utilized, what treatments might have to be provided in order to save lives, not to put people in jail. So that was the discussions we were having when we got the further information from these counties. So with that, if anybody wants to have a further discussion of Chester as suggested by Morgan on behalf of Senator Rothman, happy to entertain any further discussion.
Excuse me. So with that recommendation, I mean, with that explanation, will the recommendation change to approve from under consideration?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm taking, Morgan, I'm taking your recommendation, and I do have, Senator Rothman was good enough to supply me with some notes in case he got cut off. And I believe that his request is that Chester County Program number 12 be changed from still under consideration to recommend approval. And I thought it best to deal with it here rather than when we have the resolution as a whole. So yes, it is. That is the request.
Thank you, Tom.
Other discussion of it? And we will vote on it in the proper order, but, okay. Moving on to, from Chester to, let me see, Crawford had none, is that correct? Then they have an extension, and that moves us on to Dauphin County, which was working group number 2, Secretary Davis Jones.
Yes, Dolphin Program number 1, opioid remediation grant program, $85,000. It's recommended for approval. Dolphin Program number 3, renew, $75,000. It's recommended as non-compliant. Then we have Dolphin Program number 4, the St. Samuel Center Social Determinants of Health Expansion Project, $75,000. It's recommended for approval. Dolphin Program number 5, Dauphin County Aspire, $75,000, still under consideration. Dauphin Program number 6, Dauphin County CASA, $28,000, recommended for approval. Dolphin Program 14, Adult Teen Challenge, $60,000, recommended for approval. Dolphin Program number 15, the Neiman Center, $70,000, recommended for approval. Dolphin Program 16, vending machines for community health, $75,000, recommended for approval. Dolphin Program number 19, administrative oversight, a little bit over $3,000. It's recommended for approval.
Thank you. Any discussion of Dauphin County? Okay, with that, we will move on to, I'm sorry, Morgan. Yes.
Hi, Tom. Thank you. Again, the senator is on the meeting but isn't able to make use of his microphone. So I wanted to speak on his behalf. The senator is requesting that Program 3 under Dauphin County be changed to still under consideration. It's currently being recommended non-compliant. The notes that the county provided seem to indicate that these pregnant and postpartum women were asked to self-report the details of their addiction, and the senator has some concerns that, that population might be experiencing some fear around what would happen to their child should they self-report an opioid use disorder or opioid use. So he would like to give the county further opportunity to expand upon their methodology there. He would also like to see program number 16 pulled out of this resolution so that he can be recorded as voting no on Dauphin County Program 16. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. I'm back.
Do you have anything to add to Morgan? Morgan's comments, Senator?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Morgan. I think Morgan said it quickly.
And the one thing I would like to know is, with respect to dolphin number, just so I can make sure I get the resolution correct. With respect to dolphin number 3, which is the Bethany Christian Services for pregnant and postpartum women, you would like to see it change from recommend non-compliant to under further consideration? Or would you like to see it move to approved?
In the event
Senator-
that we lost a senator again, I'll communicate. His desire was to see it move to still under consideration, give Dauphin County an opportunity to provide more information. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I would say with regard to Dolphin 16, which I think you recommended for being moved, it is very consistent with regard to vending machines for community health. Those were approved by at least the 3 other counties, and one of the reasons we did as we did with Dauphin County was they did supply further information. One, it is all opioid related. Number 2, and number 3, we wanted to make it consistent with all the other counties. So that was the reason for recommending approval, as I recall, Secretary, unless you have additional recollections of that. Okay. Okay, let's see how badly I can screw up this resolution with these changes. Okay. First, we're going to have a resolution with respect to Butler, Cambria, Center, Chester, and Dauphin County. The one being the recommendation is, well, I take that back. With respect to Dauphin County number 16, which is one of the ones that is going to be considered in this resolution, it is recommended, which is the work group had recommended that 16 for Dauphin County be approved. The senator has made a motion that the vending machines for community health, with the organization sponsoring it being Penn State University, that it be in the amount of $75,000, that be recommended for still under consideration. Is there a second to that motion? 16.
Hey, Tom, just to clarify, I think we're looking to have number 3 moved to still under consideration. The senator would like to be a no vote on program 16.
Okay, does he want the motion to disapprove it also?
He's
With
comfortable being a no vote if the rest of the board is interested in approving.
I still think the proper way to do it is I will take that as a motion by Senator Rothman, and he is going to vote no, but then it be moved to non-compliant. Is there a second to that motion for Dauphin County 16? Hearing none, it fails for one of a second, and we will go on with the full resolution, but be noting Senator Rothman's no on Dauphin County number 16. So with that, the actual motion I'm making, or the resolution that I would like to have a motion for, is resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Opioid Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups that met and reviewed the follow-up reports from counties, hereby approves the following programs as compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2022 order of the Commonwealth Court that created the trust, that being Butler County programs 3 and 4. Cambria County Program number 1, Center County Program number 1, numbers 3 to 8, Chester County Programs 8 to 11, 13, 20 to 22, 28 and 29, 32 and 33, and Dauphin County Programs number 1, 4, 6, 14 to 16, and 19. Is there a motion to that effect?
Postal motion.
Second by Rob Postal. Any discussion of the motion? Other than that which we've already had about Dolphin number 16. Okay, noting that Senator Rothman is a no on Dauphin County 16, can I have the ayes in favor of the resolution as moved and seconded? On the phone?
Aye.
Second,
Okay, it's aye. Okay. All opposed? Other than Senator Rothman with respect to 16. Any abstentions? Okay, you haven't abstaining from Butler counties. Okay, motion passes. And then the further resolution is that the Board of Trustees of the Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups, hereby approves the following programs as non-compliant with the applicable terms as set forth in Exhibit E. Now, this is the one where I will take as a motion to change that resolution to be that Chester County number 14, which is the foreigners program. Excuse me, number 12. Is that number 12 or? Okay. Well, then it isn't here. Okay. Forget what I said. I'll go on to his resolution for that one. So that the Board of Trustees, based on the recommendations of the working group, hereby approves the following programs as non-compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E. Chester County Program number 14, Dauphin County Program number 3. Can I have a motion to that effect?
I make a motion.
Okay, second. Okay, motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, Tom. I'm just
Yes.
seeking clarification. This is Morgan. Were we not interested in moving number 3 to still under consideration, or would the senator need to make a motion?
I'm going to make that as a separate, a separate resolution that I'm going to do next, Morgan.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the motion passes. And now there'll be a separate resolution that was made by Senator Rothman that the, that program number 12 under Chester County be moved as recommended by the working group from still under consideration to being moved to approved. Can I have Senator Rothman already moved that? Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
By,
Go ahead.
okay. Okay, it's been seconded. Discussion.
Kevin Boozle, Butler County. I think that one of my concerns with changing it for this one particular program is the fact that there's still a dispute resolution that we passed earlier today. I know with our working group, we spent a full day in the initial requests and we spent another half a day reviewing additional information. And because of that, I think that every time we go back for more information, it delays the ultimate decision-making. I would like to see this go into, if they choose so, to put it into a denial request and take it through that process and deliver additional information. Obviously, there was not enough information, or maybe there's additional information that could be added to make this an appropriate request, but I think that that would be the channels of which we've just established to make that happen. Thank you.
I will say, and I do want to be totally fair to working group number, to the working group that considered this. Theirs was the first, they did not have the full value of all the discussion. So, but I hear what you say. That's part of the discussion. Anybody else want to discuss as to moving Chester County number 14, excuse me, number 12 from still under consideration to approved? Secretary Davis Jones.
Just for clarity, we have received the additional information.
Yeah.
And we are going to have a process to review the information received. So the likelihood, and I think we already had some discussion around the fact that we do, based on the information received to date, we do think that will be consistent with what we approved for the other counties. So I'm just trying to understand the need to do something different than outside of the process already established that we have planned.
The only reason to do it is because a motion was made by a member of the trust to have that further consideration right now. And I'm honoring that request. It was a motion and seconded, but we're having the discussion, and I'm not taking a position one way or the other.
Yeah. And I guess my question would be to the other members of Working Group 2, have they had an opportunity to review the additional information? And if they have not received it, then they would not have an option to weigh in to determine whether or not they are approving it. I'm one person of the work group. We have work group members who should weigh in and consider.
Well, Senator Rothman is one of those members, so I think you've heard his weighing in. Any other member of working group number 2?
I have a follow-up question. Has working group?
Representative Rossi is not on, who is
Okay.
part of that working group. And he's not on the phone, nor was he in the working group meeting. And Gene, I think you're the other one.
If
And
Gene did Gene receive the additional documents?
I believe so, but also Gene had to go off, I know, probably right
Okay.
by now, so I doubt if he's on.
Okay.
Gene, are you still on the phone? I think he had to leave, so we've heard what no other member of the working group is voting to do it, and it remains the leader of the working group's recommendation, despite the motion and the second, that it remains still under consideration. Any further discussion? All in favor, please. All in favor of moving from still under consideration to approve, please say aye. Opposed?
No.
Any others? Okay, it will remain still under consideration. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Elk County, which was working group number 1, Kevin.
All right, working group number 1, we had Elk County, number 1 project, Center Clear Child Services, family centers and pre-counts, pre-K counts, building renovations, $30,000. It is recommended for approval. Program number 2, 59th Judicial District of Pennsylvania, Children's Calming Room. And with the additional information, we recommended that for approval as well.
Okay, any discussion of Elk County? Moving on to Erie County, which is working group number 3, Shay.
Erie County Program Number 1, Outreach Project in the amount of $61,136 was recommended for approval. Erie Program Number 2, Education and Public Media Campaign in the amount of $35,725 was recommended for approval. Erie County Program Number 5, Enhanced Engagement Project Residential in the amount of $6,277 was recommended for approval. Erie County Program Number 6, MAT Expansion at the Erie County Prison in the amount of $118,833 was recommended for approval. Erie County Program Number 7, Enhanced Engagement Project Outpatient Clinic in the amount of $31,778 was recommended for approval. Erie Program Number 8, Program Enrichment, amount of $4,954 was recommended for approval. Erie County Program Number 9, OUD Library Collections, and the amount of $22,000 was recommended as non-compliant. Erie County Program Number 10, Overdose Prevention, in the amount of $30,500 was recommended for approval. Erie County Program Number 11, Erie County Certified Recovery Specialist Services, in the amount of $150,000 was recommended non-compliant. Erie County Program Number 12, National Training Summit, in the amount of $10,285 was recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion of Erie County? Hearing none, move on to Fayette County, working group number 1, Kevin.
Thank you. The number 1 program, Expanding Education to Youth, $9,235. It is still under consideration. And Fayette, number 5, State Police Education Program, $618, and it is recommended for approval.
Thank you. Any discussion of Fayette? And I would note, by the way, that with regard to the second one, the State Police Education Program, although we have said that this cannot be used for law enforcement per se, meaning it can't be used to hire additional police. It cannot be used to, Exhibit E funds cannot be used in order to help the police make more arrests. Clearly under Exhibit E, education programs, providing them with the needed first responder kind of drugs is clearly allowed under Exhibit E, which is one of the reasons for this recommending approval. Moving on to Forest County. There was nothing submitted by Forest County. So we will move on to Greene County. Once again, Greene did not submit anything, so we will move on to Huntington County.
Huntington County Program Number 1, Crisis Line Digital Media, in the amount of $36,963 was recommended for approval. Huntington County Program Number 3, Reentry Services, in the amount of $2,896 was recommended for approval. Huntington Program number 4, stigma reduction in the amount of $38,169 was recommended for approval. Huntington County number 5, OUD training efforts in the amount of $9,733 was recommended for approval. Huntington County Program number 6, under prevention, the amount of $5,683 was recommended for approval. For Huntington. I guess that's it.
Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, moving on to Jefferson County, Working Group number 2, Secretary Davis Jones.
Jefferson County Program number 1, County Jail Therapist, $43,000. That is still under consideration. Jefferson County Program number 2, MAT, MOUD, that is for $67,000. That is still under consideration. Any discussion?
I didn't sit on your group, but we have another prime care that was approved somewhere else, and I just want to have that discussion about what maybe they didn't submit enough information. I don't know.
As I recall, they did not supply sufficient information for us to make the determination. In light of the fact that Prime Care was approved under other ones, we decided to give them the opportunity to submit the additional information if they can. Okay, Juniata County, Working Group number 2, Secretary Davis Jones.
Juniata, Program number 1, $45,953. It's the Crises Line Digital Media Campaign, and it was recommended for approval. Juniata, Program number 3, Reentry Services, $3,396. It was recommended for approval. Juniata, Program number 4, Stigma Reduction Campaign, recommended for approval, roughly $66,524. Juniata, Program number 5, OUD Training Efforts, $23,490. It was recommended for approval. And Juniata, Program number 6, Prevention, $19,727. It was recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you.
This is Steve Jasper. Before you go on, can I go back to Jefferson County for a minute? It is one of my counties, and in full disclosure, I'm also the mental health administrator of Jefferson. I would just say to the commissioner's point earlier, the prime care activities have been approved, and while Jefferson is not using prime care, they are using a community-based local provider. And that service in the county prison, as we all know, with substance use disorder, opioid use disorder, and mental health, is serving all of those populations. And perhaps Jefferson commissioners did not provide enough information, but that's a little bit of the background for this group's consideration as talking about it. And with that, I yield back to you, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. And because it is still going to be under consideration, I think we'll just merely allow them to submit the information that needs to be supplied. And I don't think we'll have to make any change to the resolutions that we'll be bringing up a little bit later, okay? But we will certainly allow them to submit it. And I would urge them, if you can talk to them, to have the Jefferson officials submit that information as quickly as possible.
I can do a little arm twisting.
I thought maybe, good, thank you.
Yeah, gently, of course.
Of course. I see a hand raised, but we are not allowing the chat for this. So Mr. or Mrs. or Miss Kokenauer, we're not going to call on you for the comment. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Lackawanna did not have any programs. Lancaster County, Secretary Davis Jones, we are happy to report that under this, It's the first and only program that was withdrawn from consideration. So I will let you, you share that, Secretary, but it was noteworthy.
Lancaster, program number 2, BHDS staffing, $69,000. It's recommended for approval. Lancaster District Blueprints for Addiction Recovery, a little bit over $75,000. It was recommended for approval. Lancaster, program number 4, drug and alcohol staffing, $210,000. It was recommended for approval. And Lancaster, program number 5, community prosecutor program, $84,000. It was withdrawn. Lancaster says other programs, it's a little bit over $5,000. And that one is still under consideration.
Okay, any discussion of Lancaster County programs? Moving on to Lawrence County, and this is the one I've referred to several times during this meeting. It was initially ruled as non-compliant. It is Lawrence County, and it is their county coroner. Working group number 3 looked at this, Shay, and in light of what we were doing with respect particularly to Lehigh County, it was thought that they would recommend moving the Lawrence County, but to a different category. So we are reconsidering that, although ruled non-compliant to begin with. Shay.
Lawrence County Program number 7, Rapid Forensic Toxicology in the amount of $25,000. We recommended approval.
Okay.
Lebanon County. Lebanon County Program number 1, LCCF MAT Maintenance Program in the amount of $1,916,000. Recommend it still be under consideration. Lebanon County Program number 2, LCCF Corrections Officer to facilitate MAT Maintenance Program in the amount of $551,880. We'd recommend still be under consideration. Lebanon County Program number 3, Adult Probation Case Manager in the amount of $1,643,693. We would recommend that still be under consideration.
Thank you. Before opening it up for discussion on Lebanon, I would note that the primary reason for sending this back for still under consideration, we got little or no explanation of exactly what this money, how it related to Exhibit E, other than to say that a lot of it was going, or most of it was going totally to salaries, with no explanation as to what the people that were providing the salaries were going for. And as you can see, the total programs totaled about $4 million. So there was just too little information, particularly with it going to salaries, to even say that we ought to, and in the future, it's my recommendation that if we get materials like this in response to requests for further information, we not even waste our time. People have to submit proper information, particularly if they're requesting $4 million worth of funds for salary purposes. So any other discussion about Lebanon County? Okay, Lehigh County, working group number 1, Kevin.
Thank you, Tom. Lehigh County Drug and Alcohol Services Out-of-Pocket Insurance Balance Program 22-06 in the amount of $50,000. It is recommended for approval. Lehigh number 3, Lehigh County Coroner Autopsies, 22-08, $30,600. It was listed under first responders, Lehigh County Coroners with the opioid-related deaths, trying to get to the resolution quicker, and that was also recommended for approval.
Okay. Any discussion of Lehigh County? Okay, that will take us now to resolution number 3. And I would note that Senator Rothman, are you able to speak now?
Hi,
Okay, well, let
Tom.
me-
I'll be utilizing the microphone again on his behalf. He is listening. He's just unable to use his microphone again at this time. He would like to be recorded as a no on Juniata and Huntington projects number 5.
Okay, and that is going to be one we're moving for approval. So you just want him voted as a no. You don't want a separate motion being made?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the resolution I would present for moving in a second, it is resolved that the Board of Directors of the Opioid Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups that met and reviewed the follow-up reports from counties, hereby approves the following programs as compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2022 Order of the Commonwealth Court. Elk County Programs 1 and 2, Erie County Programs 1, 2, 5 to 8, 10, and 12, Fayette County Program number 5, Huntington County Programs number 1 and 3 to 6, Juniata County Programs number 1, 3 to 6, Lancaster County Programs number 2 to 4, Lawrence County Program number 7, Lehigh County Programs number 2 and 3. Can I have a motion to that effect? Second? Second by Jamal. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. And I will separately note that I'm going to ask for nays, but that note that Senator Rothman is a no to Huntington County Program number 5 and Juniata Program number 5. Noting those as nays on those particular programs, are there any other nays to the resolution? Are there any abstentions?
This is Commissioner Postal, Mr. Chairman. I'll abstain from Huntington and Juniata projects.
Thank you, Rob. Any other abstentions? Okay,
This is Steve. I'll just abstain from Jefferson.
okay. So noted. With that, the motion passes. And it's further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Trust, based on the recommendations of the working group, hereby disapproves the following programs as non-compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, and that's Erie County Programs number 9 and number 11. Can I have a motion to that effect?
Make a motion.
Okay, thank you. Any second? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions other than the one just noted? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to McCain County. I think what we will do is to take McCain County, and that brings us up to, if I'm not mistaken, to McCain. We're going to do McCain, Mercer, and Mifflin County, as well as Montgomery and Northampton. And then we will take a 15-minute break for lunch. And that will start us on with Philadelphia, where there's a number of programs to be discussed. So we could go on to McCain. And that is working group number 2, Secretary Davis Jones. I'm sorry,
Three.
number 3. Rob's picture's in front of it.
Mc-
Number 3.
McKean County, program number 5, naloxone distribution in the amount of $30,000. We recommended for approval.
Any discussion? Okay, Mercer County.
Mercer, program number 1, psychological autopsies, $24,000, recommended for approval. Mercer, program number 4, LSW consultant, $63,325. That's recommended for approval. Mercer, program number 5, opioid anti-stigma advertisement project, $78,830, recommended for approval. Mercer, program number 6, media campaign project, $80,000, recommended for approval. Mercer, program number 8, it is sponsor opioid motivational speaker and purchase books, recommended $10,000, recommended for approval. Mercer, program number 9, sponsor monthly self-care workshops and speakers, $50,000, recommended for approval. Mercer, program number 10, Operation Endorse Resistance of Substance Abuse Everywhere program, plus purchasing of building and minor renovations, $101,000, 322, still under consideration. Mercer County program number 11, collaborative program with healthcare providers for pain management, chronic pain management from OUD, $210,000, 548, recommended for approval.
Any other discussion? Any discussion of Mercer? Okay, Secretary, I think you also have Mifflin County, which is next.
Yes, Mifflin, program number 1, crisis line, digital media, $36,953. That is recommended for approval. Mifflin, program number 3, reentry services, $3,396, recommended for approval. Mifflin, program number 4, stigma reduction, $66,774, recommended for approval. Mifflin, program number 5, OUD training efforts, $25,759, recommended for approval. And Mifflin, program number 6, prevention, $10,416, recommended for approval.
Thank you. Any discussion of Mifflin County? Okay, Montgomery County, Shay, number 3.
Montgomery County program number 1 under prevention in the amount of $720,000, $720,957. Oh my gosh, I cannot. $720,957 still under consideration. Montgomery County program number 3, recovering housing supports in the amount of $100,000. We are recommending approval. Montgomery program number 6, crisis services, mobile and walk-in in the amount of $1,390,000. We are requesting still under consideration. And Montgomery program number 8, M-Court, still under consideration. And the amount of that, I'm sorry, was $750,691.
Okay. Discussion of Montgomery County. You'll see under number 6, number 1, it's a lot of money that we did feel as if we should get the further information because in its own disclosure, it reported that less than 25%, I think the way they worded it was upwards of 25%, was for opioid use disorder, meaning that a lot of it was going to other things. How much of it was linked under Exhibit E to co-occurring substance use disorder is things that we want the additional information for. But that was the reason why it's being sent back for, why it's recommended that it's being sent back for further consideration. Any other discussion on Montgomery? Montour County, Secretary
Montour,
Davis Jones.
Montour Program Number 1, warm handoff, $59,000, recommended for approval.
Okay, discussion? And Northampton County, Shay.
Northampton County Program Number 1, County Newsletter in the amount of $21,999, still under consideration. Northampton County Program Number 2, Impaired Simulation, should be simulation kits, in the amount of $8,772, still under consideration. Northampton County Program Number 4, Fake is Real, in the amount of $234,000, recommended approval. Northampton County Program Number 5, Live Well, Be Well, in the amount of $25,101. We recommended approval. And Northampton County Program Number 7, Recovery Centers, in the amount of $244,881. We recommended approval.
Okay. Any discussion of Northampton? Hearing none, I'd like to offer the following resolution. And Morgan, I will note the senator's no vote on one of these, but for purposes of the resolution, resolved that the Board of Trustees of Pennsylvania Opioid Abuse Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups that met and reviewed the follow-up reports from counties, hereby approves the following programs as compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2022 order of the Commonwealth Court that created the trust. McCain County Program Number 5, Mercer County Programs Number 1, 4 to 6, 8 to 9, and 11. Mifflin County Programs Number 1, 3 to 6. Montgomery County Program Number 3. Montour County Program Number 1. Northampton County Programs Number 4 and 5, and Number 7. Can I have a motion to that effect? So moved. Is there a second to the motion? Second by Secretary Davis Jones. Any discussion? I will note the opposition to Mifflin County Number 5 is a no vote by Senator Rothman, with a yes vote on all the other ones under this resolution. Can I have the remainder of the ayes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Other than the one just noted.
Now I will, of course, abstain, Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
on Mifflin.
Yep. Any other abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, with that, we will move on to Philadelphia County, but we are going to take just about noon or maybe slightly after, and we will take a 15-minute break and then resume with Philadelphia County. You said, Kevin, or do you want some more time? Mhm. Okay, so we're going to get started. Can you tell, Heather, is everybody back on?
It's always the risk of a break.
Okay, so we are going to get started. Please let Heather or Bree know if you got disconnected, or if you know of somebody else who got disconnected. I guess it's easier that way, isn't it? Okay, we're going to start with Philadelphia. As I explained earlier, Philadelphia had two broad programs with a lot of grants under each, or with a lot of grants under particularly one, which we've labeled as Philadelphia number 8, and also several under Philadelphia number 9. When they gave us further information, which we requested, they came back and let us know what all of the grants, or as we referred to it earlier today, what the mini grants covered, which we were able to go through. It did add considerable to the number of programs, if you will, so that there were, an additional, well, 70 or so programs that were considered just under Philadelphia. And so we're working group number 1 dealt with this, Kevin Boozle's group. So we are going to go on to Philadelphia now. As I said, it's under 2 broad categories, 8 broken into a number of subparts and 9 broken into 4 or 5 subparts. And I did ask Kevin to deal with the shorter one first. So we're going to start with Philadelphia number 9.
Thank you, Tom. And I'm going to apologize right out of the gate because I'm going to be on here for a while and you're going to have to listen to me drone on. So, and to address Ms. Shea over here ribbing me about not doing as much work as they have been, we're going to fix that right now. So.
And let me, excuse me, Kevin, I might regret saying this. If you need a break, let me know and I'll take over because you are going to be on here for quite a while.
All right. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate that. All right. We're going to take a look at Philadelphia number 9. In particular, as we said, we did break them into subgroups because they were compacted into one grant type of application. And the first one is 9A, impact services, home repair programs. And we are going to pause every once in a while for conversation pieces because I think there's going to be some discussion on these ones. It's prevention of misuse of opioid was the category. And the goal of the program was to direct funds toward home ownership in individual sections of Kensington. And it included windows, doors, locks, home improvement style product. And it was recommended for non-compliance. That was number 9A. Moving on to 9B. NKCDC targeted Kensington residents, 1,900,000. It was dividing the neighborhood into ensuring the number of residents served evenly and distributed. Again, this is mortgage payment, rental payments, and so on. It is also recommended for non-compliant. Philadelphia 9C. Again, NKCDC, number 1, park improvements. in the amount of, and I'm sorry, my eyes are feeling, 800,000. Again, prevent misuse of opioid. The grants were to improve capital improvements, administrative costs, park events, and programming. Again, recommended non-compliance. Philadelphia 9D, NKCDC, support for schools in the amount of 2 million, prevent misuse of opioid. This is again, Kensington Community, school and upgrade, repairs, green space, sports spaces, so on, after school programming, and it is recommended for non-compliance. Sorry, takes me a second to get there. Okay. Philadelphia number 9E, did I do D? Okay, 9E, sorry. NK, CDC, and Impact Services, small business support capacity building, $400,000, recommended for non-compliance. And I'm going to pause there if you don't mind, because that's the Philadelphia 9. It was broken up into these subcategories, A through E, and I would like to open it up, Tom, for discussion if anybody has anything.
Yes, I would like to have a discussion. I would like everybody to weigh in. You should know first, look, this board is very cognizant of the problems besetting, particularly the Kensington area, Philadelphia. And we're also very sympathetic. We do believe that money needs to be poured in for a lot of different reasons. However, we believe that the programs that were outlined in the use of opioid money is inappropriate. It does not comply with Exhibit E. And Philly actually provided a lot of additional information. For example, on the last one that Kevin reviewed, the 400,000, it's to address the challenges small business experience in Kensington, identifying vendors willing to do business in the community, provide small businesses with support and services. Proposed services include bookkeeping, legal services, business planning, web development, technology assistance. All very, very noble, okay? And probably things that is a good use of Philadelphia's money to improve a very, very blighted neighborhood. But it just is not the appropriate use of Exhibit E monies. And I could have read you each of these programs and probably said something similar to that they proposed to each one of them. Nobody doubts the fact that these things, that Kensington needs these things, and we'd love to see Philadelphia be able to fund it. But we just can't feel we're fulfilling our responsibilities and allow these kind of things to be paid for out of opioid funds. So with that, I'll open it up for anybody else that wants to discuss.
I guess I'll add something, since I was part of that working group and spent the hours talking about this. That's well said. We all understand the importance of community development, but the trust is not a community development program. So when I looked at this portion of the requests, immediately I got in mind housing services, community development. Yeah, and it would be very difficult for me to justify giving grants, and the information was very comprehensive and very detailed, but I can't support giving trust money for home repairs, basically, even though it's very important, and certainly the environment is certainly important, but we're not a community development program, and that's, I guess, my bottom line. So that's my input, Tom.
Thank you, Rob. Other discussion?
Hey, thank you. Tumor Alexander. I want to first thank the working group, because this was I guess my first initial baptism meeting was during the working group, and Senator Tartaglione did her best to try to prep me and guide me and tell me that the time amount I needed to slot aside for this. But I want to thank all of the other trustees that was a part of that working group, because you allowed us to have real fruitful discussion, really good deliberation. I tried to say in that group, in just my former role with the city as a former managing director under Mayor Kenny, was involved in a lot of these conversations. And this particular program was a partnership of New Kensington CDC and Impact Services, and it was for the neighborhood revitalization plan for one particular zip code in Kensington. And that particular zip code is the zip code that's ground zero nowhere else in the state for all of the ills that opioid use and misuse and where we're experiencing, right? On any given day in that particular zip code, there's about 500 to 600 people out in unhoused people in the street every day, as counted by police, that's using drugs out in the street, loitering, unsheltered, using drugs. That impacts a lot, not only on the physical, but also on the mental of that community, the trauma that community has experienced for the last few decades. This funding and this request for funding and support, in particular, intentionally through this program, was for us as a city and a reckoning and saying, we support the revitalization and redevelopment of this community for the existing neighbors that live through this. So you've seen support for parks, support for schools, support for residents. And so, and throughout our other submissions, you see, certainly supports for folks that's for treatment, for wound care, for mobile services, understanding, our prison program, just how to get support for the folks going through the addiction. But there's the other side of this that I don't think a lot of folks recognize or mention, and we wanted to be intentional in that. So certainly the board and my other trustee members could vote their conscience. I personally will be voting no. I will be voting against the recommendation of the work group and the board on these programs. And just, I know we have a few folks from that community on this call. Just don't want you all to be discouraged about what you may hear today, because regardless of this, there is pathways for us to sort of dispute and appeal, but there's also conversations around how we're going to fund this, and our commitment and Mayor Parker's commitment to continuing to fund this is, I just wanted to say that for the record.
And I'd like to put on the record, the work that Impact Services and New Kensington CDC, the work that they do in the Kensington community, is phenomenal. And they take a little bit of money and they stretch it. Tumar and I were speaking, and I just think that the next round, we now know, well, the city now knows what's allowed and what's not allowed. And unfortunately, I have to go back and try to find the money, and I understand that's gonna happen for the ones that were not compliant, but they also have the option to dispute, which I think some of them might. But I'm gonna be a yes on everything.
Thank you.
Because I am a firm believer that we have to stick to Exhibit A. Because this is my district, it's ground zero. And I just think we have to do the letter of the law when it comes to Exhibit A.
Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome.
Any other,
discussion?
yeah, I want to open it up. Okay. I'm going to move back to the original. I just wanted to get that one under our belt. I swear the rest of it's not so hard. Just a lot. And I can't see the screen that far away, so that's why I'm trying to pull mine up. Just give me 1 second. Yes. Okay, thank you. And I'll just reiterate that for everybody on the Zoom call so you hear what was being said. Philadelphia had put their combine projects into number 8, number 9. We, as the trust board and through the AG's office, we're looking at a way to identify them per project. So you'll see 8A1, 8A2, and each of these programs will get a communication about what number they will have following forward. All right. And they will be posted on our site as well, that you'll be able to go back and review to make sure that you're in the right category. Philadelphia number 8. This is the Overdose Prevention and Community Healing Fund, City of Philadelphia Opioid Response Unit. And we're going to break that down into 8A1, which is CAD kids, in the amount of 20,000. Prevention education, it is recommended for approval. The total amount that was under the project number 8 in total is $3,500,000. Moving on to 8A2. Yeah, I don't know how to say that. Puentes de Salud.
Very
$20,000.
good.
Thank you. Shay was helping me. She was guiding me over here. I'm looking at it. I don't know where to go with this. Referral to treatment and other supportive services for people who are in the use of drugs, and it's recommended for approval. $8A3, Philly Unknown, $20,000 targeted engagement and connection to resources. It is recommended for approval. 8A4, Angels in Motion, $20,000. Street outreach, including wound care, recommended for approval. 8A5, Socks for the Streets, $20,000. This is street outreach and wound care program, also distributing the meals, safer use kits, and hygiene supplies. It is recommended for approval. $8A6, by Faith External Healthcare, doing businesses Faith, Health, and Healing, $20,000. It's prevention, education, and engagement and wellness programs for youth and other populations at risk, recommended for approval. 8A7, Raw Tools Philly, $20,000. Prevention and engagement, still under consideration. 8A8, Philadelphia Prevention Partnership, $20,000. Again, prevention and education and engagement, recommended for approval. 8A9, Original Kensington Outreach Foundation, $20,000. Provide support and education to heal collective trauma, still under consideration. 8A10, First Stop Recovery, $20,000. Treatment and recovery services, recommended for approval. 8B1, Arc of Safety, $100,000. Targeted engagement for connection to resources, still under consideration. I will note that Bs go into a $100,000 category for these grants. 8B2, Unity Recovery, $100,000. Treatment and recovery services for individuals, recommended for approval. 8B3, Broad Street Ministry, $100,000. Targeted engagement and connection to resources to unhoused individuals and those that are use of drugs and at the risk of using drugs, still under consideration. 8B4, Luna, the Moyer Foundation, $100,000. Grief counseling and support services for families who have lost loved ones, recommended approval. 8B5, Danny's House, $100,000. Recovery House, including case management and other wraparound services, recommended approval. 8B6, Anti-Drug Alcohol Crusaders, $100,000. Prevention, education, and engagement, recommended for approval. 8B7, Savage Sisters Recovery Incorporated, 100,000. Street outreach, including wound care and distribution of meals, safer use kits, and hygiene supplies, recommended for approval. 8B8, Yoga for Philly, 100,000. Prevention, education, and engagement, still under consideration. 8B9, Fab Youth Philly, 100,000. Prevention, education, and engagement, still under consideration. 8B10, Operation in My Backyard, 100,000. Street outreach, including wound care and distribution of meals, safe kits, and hygiene supplies, recommended approval. Amandla Incorporated, Safe Hub Philadelphia, 100,000. Prevention, education, and engagement, wellness programs, still under consideration. Providence Center, 8B12, Providence Center, 100,000. Referral to treat and other supportive services, recommended approval. 8B13, Courage Medicine Health Center Incorporated, 100,000. Treatment and recovery services for individuals with opioid use disorder, including peer recovery, recommended for approval. 8B14, Philadelphia Community Empowerment through soccer, doing business as Kensington Soccer Club, 100,000. Prevention, education, and engagement, still under consideration. 8B15, Stop the Risk, fiscal sponsor impact services, 100,000. Target engagement and connection to resources for unhoused individuals, recommended for approval. 8B16, Homeless Advocacy Project, 100,000. Targeted engagement and connection to resources to unhoused individuals, still under consideration. 8B17, Mercy Neighborhood Ministries, 100,000. Prevention, education, and engagement in wellness programs for youth and other populations, still under consideration. 8C1. Thank you. I'm going to pause there because if there's any questions or anything on those 100,000 grants, I'd like to open it up. Okay, hearing none. 8C category is $10,000 programs or grants. 8C1 is Alyssa Bigby, doing business as Rebel Arts. Creative art program for youth in Kensington, still under consideration. 8C2, by Faith External Healthcare, doing business by Faith Health and Healing, 10,000. Trauma informed program to build resiliency and help Kensington families thrive, still under consideration. 8C3, Centro Nueva. Thank you. 10,000. Promote resiliency in young people through educational enrichment, engagement in the arts, and Latino cultures, still under consideration. 8C4, Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Foundation, 10,000. Arm youth with the knowledge of skills and behaviors and attitudes required to build productive lives, still under consideration. 85C, Fab Youth Philly, 10,000. Youth Workforce Development Program, still under consideration. 8C6, Federation of Neighborhood Centers, 10,000. One Site Youth Media Programming and Journalism, still under consideration. Heart Lane Neighborhood Farm, 10,000. Engage neighbors in the healing atmosphere of garden space and offer a safe space, still under consideration. 8C8, Historic Fair Hill, 10,000. Youth Development Education Program Urban Fresh Food Initiative and Community Building and Wellness Projects, still under consideration. 8C9, Hope Works Camden, 10,000. Trauma Informed and Wraparound Services, recommended for approval. Clean Kensington, 10,000. Addressing issues through direct action by cleaning and beautifying Kensington, still under consideration. 8C11, PB&J, 10,000. Bring teens together to form social bonds and introduce them to youth serving organizations working in the neighborhood, still under consideration. 8C12, Poetry at the Park, 10,000. Poetry and photography workshops for teens and adults, still under consideration. 8C13, Kensington Neighbors United Civic Association, 10,000. Weekly youth programming, educational assistance, anti-bullying workshops, violence and drug prevention, cultural awareness, trauma-informed stress management, and skill delivery, still under consideration. Okay, help me.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Liga Burial,
You did good.
10,000. Youth Sports Academy, academic character development and mentoring, still under consideration. 8C15, legal clinic in the for the disabled, excuse me. 10,000. Identify and address unmet legal needs affecting health and well-being, still under consideration. Leveling the playing field, 10,000. Support youth sport programs in Kensington area, still under consideration. Los Bomberos de la,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one,
Yeah.
10,000. Build community amongst all, especially in the young and growing Latino population, still under consideration. 8C18, Mad Beats Philly, 10,000. Youth Development Program and Music Performance and Education, still under consideration. 8C19, Mighty Writers, Diaper Bank, 10,000. Partner with nonprofits to provide families with basic necessities, still under consideration. 8C20, Mother Mercy House Incorporated, 10,000. Summer camp for neighborhood youth and youth employment opportunities, still under consideration. 8C21, Firm Hope Baptist Church, 10,000. Summer programs for youth and community events, still under consideration. 8C22, Kensington Soccer Club, 10,000. Youth soccer program to provide children access to safe play space and community, still under consideration. 8C23, Photography Without Borders, 10,000. Empowerment young artists to tell their stories through photography, still under consideration. 8C24, Power Street Theater of Culture Trust, Greater Philadelphia, 10,000. Facilitate community discussion around mental health and social justice and empowerment, still under consideration. 8C25, Raw Tools Philly, 10,000. Provide a healing space, the community, and create income opportunities for people impacted by violence, still under consideration. 8C26, Richard and Friends United in the Community, 10,000. Promote and establish projects that benefit the community and provide everyday support for families to be engaged in community decisions, still under consideration. Rock to the Future, 8C27, 10,000. Support positive youth development and economic empowerment through student-driven music programs, still under consideration. 8C28, Sisters of St. Joseph Welcome Center. Support immigration through access to education, support services, programs leading to self-sufficiency, 10,000, still under consideration. 8C29, Small Things Incorporated, 10,000. Partner with organizations to alleviate poverty by improving food security and collaborating to address other community needs, still under consideration. 8C
Kevin,
third,
I'll help
Yeah.
you with this one, okay?
yes, please.
Ayer, Puerto Riqueño,
Thank you, Senator.
welcome.
10,000, promote Puerto Rican arts and culture to empower the community, still under consideration. 8C 31, the Free Church of St. John, 10,000, provide a safe environment for the community to engage with each other and nature, still under consideration. 8C 32, the Salvation Army New Day Drop-In Center, 10,000, offer safe space for victims of human trafficking, rape, sexual assault, robbery, and other crimes to receive support. Recommended approval. 8C 33, the Simple Way, 10,000. Help residents meet basic needs and create an environment that feels safe, still under consideration. 8C 34, Urban Extreme Youth Development, 10,000. Rebuild communities by influencing the lives of youth and their families and addressing education, health, economics, and social needs, still under consideration. 8C 35, Victoria Urban Outreach Tutoring Services, 10,000. Implement educational services and mentoring, still under consideration. 8C 36, Yoga for Philly, 501c3, 10,000. Invest in the mental, emotional, social, cultural, and physical well-being of kids, so they're equipped and empowered, still under consideration. And that concludes 8C, which is the $10,000 grants. Open it up for any discussion or conversation.
I think people could see a theme here, and this was
Oh, sorry.
big discussion, lengthy discussion. I think we understand the purpose of diversion or the benefits of diverting and occupying our youth, because I think 90% of these are related to youth development and clubs, sporting clubs, and that's obviously very important when you're talking about diverting people, particularly our youth, into better behavior. And it is an acceptable use, I think, under Exhibit E, but it's still under consideration because I think, if I remember correctly, you just wanted more information about how, besides being a diversion into sports, will there be any educational component, any signs, any, I guess, more of a connection to drug misuse, and not simply, well, we're diverting people into better behavior. Because again, we're not a youth group. We have to respect the intent of Exhibit E. So my comment on that, obviously, we have a lot of work yet to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Postal, I agree, you know, coming from Philadelphia and this being my district, if it's gonna be an educational program for sports, I'd like an outline of what the program is gonna be and how much of that is gonna be devoted to opioid use.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment, based on the information that I'm seeing in front of me. And of course, I don't have the level of detail that the work group had. But when we think about the federal block grant and the prevention strategies outlined in the federal block grant regarding like appropriate use of dollars for prevention programming, I would say that most of what I'm seeing today, many of our SCAs are already funding programs similar to that. So at the end of the day, I'm saying that they would fall in alignment based on my professional sort of opinion. But I do agree, even based on my work that I used to do in Allegheny County, we often wanted to see, some mention of substance use, education, misuse, overdose, prevention. So I think understanding the curriculum, how the curriculums are designed for those programs are key. But overall, in general, prevention activities can be, for example, alternative activities. That's one of the approved federal strategies. Alternatives to drug use, keeping young people busy. And I see Shay nodding her head because she funds those services. But overall, that was just my comment.
Yeah, I would say that to take it back to something we discussed at the beginning, one of the reasons for sending these back for further consideration was, in full fairness to Philadelphia, we did feel as if they would have had the opportunity to present more information, the kind of information we wanted. This was really the first time they had broken out the very large block grants into mini grants. So we did feel, I know Senator Tartaglione, in conjunction with Tamar, and Senator Tartaglione had several assistants, was going to the internet to find out exactly these programs. There were just too many of them for us to deal with, that we sent them back so that Philly themselves, being close to the programs, could understand and tell us exactly what's going on, to give us exactly the information. It's our feeling exactly, Secretary. We do believe most of them are going to end up being approved, but we have to treat Philadelphia the same as we're treating everybody else.
I just want to add in just a little bit of what they did submit. They did a unique approach, which was collapsing these into grant programs, but they also went to the extent of creating their own rubric and identified Exhibit E for beautification and blight removal, building resiliency, promoting wellness and addressing community trauma, connecting residents to resources, public safety, workforce development and training, and youth development. The part that we felt as a group, just to go back, is that each one of those programs did not supply their evidence of what they were trying to do. But we do believe that you're going to fall in that category. Okay.
Okay, other discussions of Philadelphia's programs falling in under number 8. Hearing none, I'd like to propose a resolution.
Can we do that after Somerset? I'm sorry.
No, I'd prefer to. Let's
Okay,
do Philadelphia will
I just
express
love
on
following the
line,
notes.
and then I'll combine the rest. So, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania Opioid Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups that met and reviewed the following reports, hereby approve the following programs as compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2022 order of the Commonwealth Court that created the trust. Philadelphia programs 8A 1 to 6, 8A 8, 8A 10, 8B 2, 8B 4 to 7, 8B 10, 8B 12 and 13, 8B 15, 8C 9, 8C 32. Can I have a motion to that effect?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Hey, Tom,
please-
this is Morgan Wagner weighing in from Senator Rothman's office. I would just like to note that the senator would like to be recorded as voting no on 8A4, 8A5, 8B7, and 8B10. These are the safer use programs listed. Thank you.
And I'm here, Tom.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. And that will be noted as voting against the resolution on each of those, okay? Okay, otherwise, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Other than Senator Rothman's comments, which we'll note separately, Uh, Anybody opposed?
Two more, are you voting no?
He's voting aye for this one, Senator.
Oh, okay,
They're the ones that are approved, Senator.
all right.
Okay. Motion passes. Uh, Further resolution on this is, and further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Trust, based on the recommendations of the working groups, hereby disapproves the following programs as non-compliant with the applicable settlement terms as set forth in Exhibit E, Philadelphia County Programs 9A through 9E. We will already note, Tamar, your no vote on that. Other than that, everybody in favor of the motion? Oh, can I have a motion to that effect? All right,
So moved.
Second.
okay, any discussion? Everybody in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. We will take us on to Somerset.
Okay.
Working group number one. Kevin, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Somerset program number 2, movement outdoors, 30,000, recommended non-compliant. Number 3, Upton Works, AED and naloxone for community events. Uptown Works is located in the center of the Uptown Somerset. It is recommended for approval. Number 4, ARS Treatment Centers Crossroads, part of the recovery walk, 5,000, recommended for approval. Number 8, Twin Lakes Center Recovery Support Services in the amount of $22,000. We recommend for approval. Moving on to Sullivan County. Sullivan County number 1, Case Manager 2, Recovery Liaison, $64,089. It is recommended for approval.
Okay. Any questions about any of those? Okay, that will move us on to Tioga County, and that is working group number 3, Shay.
Tioga County Program Number 1, Outpatient Services, in the amount of $35,722. We recommended approval. Tioga County Program Number 2, Serenity Lodge Recovery House, in the amount of $71,167. We have still under consideration. Tioga County Program Number 4, Youth Intervention, in the amount of $15,511, still under consideration. Tioga County Project Number 5, Harbor Counseling Certified Recovery Services, in the amount of $18,000. We recommended approval. Tioga County Program Number 7, Harbor Counseling and Overdose Awareness Event, in the amount of $6,000. We recommended approval. And Tioga County Program Number 9, Drug Endangered Children, in the amount of $10,166. We recommended approval.
Okay. Any discussion of Tioga County? Okay, Union County had none, Venango had none.
No, Venango has one.
Excuse me, Venango has one. So Kevin, back to you.
Venango County number 1 project, prison reentry, $346,038. It is recommended for approval.
Okay. And Washington County, Secretary Davis Jones.
Washington, program number 1, program improvement and provision of treatment services at Greenbrier, $454,000, still under consideration.
Okay. And that will take us to the, any discussion of that? That will move us on to the last county, Westmoreland County, and it's back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. I'm going to make this pretty simple. I believe they're all still under consideration, but I do want you to have them in front of you. So project number 1, Westmoreland County Department of Community Relations and Prevention, $325,000. Project number 2, Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission, Narcan and fentanyl, $184,676. Again, still under consideration. Number 3 is drug court, social worker, $395,000, still under consideration. Number 4, lost dreams, awakening, recovery training and education, $150,000, still under consideration. Number 5, Sage's Army, community recovery expansion, $164,853, still under consideration. Number 6, North Huntington Township Police, DARE program, $162,988, still under consideration. Number 7, Ross Straber Township Police Department, take note, $62,832, still under consideration. Number 8, Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission, community outreach, $155,916, still under consideration. Number 9, Westmoreland Drug and Alcohol Commission, case management and recovery support services, $134,060, still under consideration. Number 10, Gateway, $577,267, still under consideration. Number 11, County Jail, $214,351, still under consideration. And that concludes Westmoreland.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot of things to be sent back for further consideration. Any specific reason why it was sent back for further consideration?
So the specific reason why this group could not weigh in on this was, first of all, the initial information was inconclusive. We asked for additional information, and the information we got back, it was very difficult to tell which one went to which program. It wasn't identified well. They did, as you can see this packet, over 3/4 of that packet is them responding to the requests of information. But it was no way, shape, or order for our group to go through each and every one of those. So we need identifiable information, a way that they're going to track it. I'm going to go back to one specifically. We're talking about a case manager that looks like it's already in place. And so it looks like they are going to backfill some funding for certain programs, and we're going to be looking into that deeply to make sure that that's not the case. I hope it's not. Hopefully we can fund the programs, but we got to make sure, and this didn't do it for the information gathering that we needed.
And Kevin was very kind when he showed you the approximate 2.5 inches of documents that we got. About half of that was time cards that we got as an explanation of how much time was being devoted to something. It was just pure time cards with no further explanation of it. So, look, we're trying to operate in good faith in going through this, giving it very detailed review. And what we ask of the counties is good faith in return in trying to supply the information in a succinct form that's understandable. Secretary.
I just wanted to get some clarity around a comment you just made regarding making sure that they're not backfilling like for positions. Help me to understand what that means, because
it looked in some of these programs that they're already funded by other sources, and that we needed to understand where those sources were. We couldn't tell from the time cards, but it looks like they're trying to go use these funds to go back and fund those programs. So we just need a clarity, because it doesn't say which programs. Not saying it's wrong, we just need to understand. How do you measure something that you don't know what they're doing? Yeah, no, I understand. I think that this particular county overwhelmed documents, and there was just no way to make sense of it.
Any other questions about Westmoreland? And I misspoke, Kevin, there are two more, and I think they're both yours. First Wyoming and then York County.
Lucky you all. Wyoming #1, Children's Services Center, Robinson Counseling Center, co-responder program, $51,996. It is recommended for approval. York County #5, Recovery House of Worship, $164,970. It is recommended for approval. York #7, York Adams Drug and Alcohol Commission. It's called ROMPA, ROMPPA, Prevention Project, $200,000, and it is recommended for approval. York #11, WellSpan Health, WellSpan CRS and hygiene kits, $228,230. It is also recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions about York County? Okay, hearing none. The final final resolution for today is going to be the follow-up reports for Somerset, Sullivan, Tioga, Venango, Wyoming, and York County. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania Opioid Trust, based on the recommendation of the working groups that met and reviewed the follow-up reports from counties, hereby approves the following programs as compliant with the applicable terms as set forth in Exhibit E, described and incorporated into the July 12, 2022 order of the Commonwealth Court that created the trust. It will be Somerset County programs 3 and 4 and 8, Sullivan County program #1, Tioga County programs #1, 5, 7, and 9, Venango County program #1, Wyoming program #1, York County programs 5, 7, and 11. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So move, Kevin Boozle.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, passes. And the final part of the resolution is resolved that we disapprove Somerset County program #2. Can I have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved, Kevin.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That's all. Okay. Anybody have any new business to be brought before the group? Hearing none, we will be getting out a notice of when the next meetings are going to be. We are intending on having one in August and another one in November. It's possible we'll need to have a special meeting in between those two, but we've already had 3 meetings this year. August ought to take care of the things that were still being considered further, which will probably encompass some additional work group meetings. And if we can get by without having to have one until November, we will. If we do have to have one, obviously I will try to give you as much as a month advance notice to have an additional meeting. So if there's nothing else, appreciate everybody's time and welcome again to the new members. You still have a chance to reconsider if you'd like. Having gone through that, but hearing none, thank you all for your time and attention, and thank you for all the work you're putting in. I really appreciate it. Thank you.